It's Wednesday, January 24th, 2018, and welcome to Vanran10 on Sports. Um, this is a bonus video. I've already done my Wednesday video, which is Easy Gamer. So what I do every Wednesday. But I've always said it's like if I have other stuff I want to do, especially in the sports and video game areas, I will pop them up whenever I feel like it. Um, Nobody's really watching these videos right now anyway, so this is for future. So I'm telling you the date so that you know how long ago it was when it's like I actually created this, and it's like, wow, it took them a long time to get past, one view per video. And that one view that it is, me, I'm doing it. That's right, because I have to make sure that they look all right. They have to at least not be, the sound can't be messed up, and the picture has to come through. As long as those things happen, I'm good. Okay, so what we're going to talk about, it's probably been down there. You'll see it in the little title there. The 2018 Cleveland Cavaliers, boom or bust. We are coming up to the All-Star break for the NBA. Isaiah Thomas has played 4 or 5 games or something like that for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and there's already a little bit of infighting. Isaiah Thomas is already like fighting with Kevin Love. I'm not really sure why. It's like so far Isaiah Thomas has not made the Cleveland Cavaliers any better at this point. But there is a lot of people right now that are overreacting to this little losing streak. Now, I think the Cleveland Cavaliers in their last 40 some odd games last year went like 22-21 before they went into the playoffs in the East. Still made it to the finals because they have LeBron James. But there's a lot of people that are talking about, now they're sitting there going, oh, this Cleveland team is doomed. If they don't do something big at the trading deadline, they're not even going to get to the finals. They're not even going to be in the top 4 seeds. 2 weeks ago, everybody was sitting there and they were talking about, you have to give this team time to gel now that it's adding Isaiah Thomas. And all these people were saying, you just got to give it time. It's like it doesn't happen overnight. You're adding another superstar or another all-star player into your lineup that hasn't been there all year. And it takes a while to integrate a player like Isaiah Thomas, who's only 5'9", who doesn't play defense. It takes you a while. And he doesn't pass. He's not an assist guy, so it's not like he's a point guard. It's going to take a little bit to find out how he fits in. 2 weeks ago, that's what everybody was saying. You just got to give this a chance. Well, 2 weeks. 2 weeks, and people are losing their minds. People are saying that this team is doomed unless they do something big at the trade deadline. What happened to this whole thing of you've got to let Isaiah Thomas work his way into this? I think it has a lot to do with the fact that Isaiah Thomas is basically attacking Kevin Love and saying that he's the reason that they're a problem, and Isaiah Thomas is kind of calling himself a superstar with LeBron James. They're the top 2 players on the team. Well, no offense, Isaiah, but you've had one real good season and not much else in your career has happened. You've been injured for most of this season, and you haven't done a whole lot since you've been back. So, right now there's a lot of people now that are naysaying the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they're saying that if they don't do something gigantic, they're going to fail miserably. This is an aging team. I mean, there is a lot of aging players on this team. You have Derrick Rose, who really wouldn't be that old. If Derrick Rose was healthy and didn't have the bad knees, he'd be in his prime. But of course, you wouldn't have him. The Bulls would still have him. You have Dwayne Wade, who hasn't been good for about 3 years. He's a pretty good player still, but he can't give you 40 minutes a night, and you still expect, and you're going to expect to get his best. So, Tristan Thompson is kind of taking a downward spiral. He makes $14 million a year, and he's not playing like a $14 million a year player. J.R. Smith used to be a Denver Nugget. J.R. Smith, when he was here, was a guy who shot the ball a lot, and he would go through the worst cold streaks and he would go through the best hot streaks. So one thing we always knew with J.R. Smith, he was going to put the ball up, and if he was hot, holy smokes, he was fun to watch. But when he wasn't, he would put up, 17 shots and hit the bricks 15 times. And that wasn't fun to watch because usually the Nuggets would lose those games. J.R. Smith is very athletic. The problem with this Cleveland team is they don't play defense. And in the playoffs, you got to play some defense. Because the other teams in the East that are starting to creep up on the Cavaliers, like the Celtics, like the Raptors, I think the Heat are playing pretty well. The Pacers, I'm not going to say the Pacers, but the Heat are actually playing pretty well right now. I'm trying to think of a couple other teams that are playing pretty good. Don't discount anybody that has a player like Antetokounmpo, which is who Milwaukee has, or the Greek Freak, as a lot of people know him. He can cause some matchup. He's a matchup disaster for a lot of teams. If he can get in the playoffs, he can maybe make things difficult on some of the teams. But I think we got to relax a little bit with Cleveland. LeBron James has been to a bunch of these things in a row, bunch of finals in a row. So we need to kind of relax. This team has still got to find its way. If a month from now, this team is still having these problems and they're still losing more games than they win, let's say in the next month they have 15 games. If they go 7-8 or 6-9 in their next 15 games, and they're showing no improvement, it could be a problem. That could be a big problem because this team just might not gel. The problem is going to be with this is that you've got to. They're trying to decide what to do right now during the trade deadline. The trade deadline is going to be coming up real quick, and you got to figure out: do we go after a big name free agent and try to bring in like a DeAndre Jordan? Maybe try to get Paul George away from the Oklahoma City Thunder just to even for that last half of the season, just to push for a title. But you got to give up a lot, and I'm having a feeling that you're going to have to give up that high draft pick you were getting from the New Jersey Nets. Here's the problem with that high draft pick from the New Jersey Nets. They're not playing bad basketball. That high draft pick that you thought you were going to get from the New Jersey Nets, that draft pick could end up being around 8th or 9th and not even a lottery pick, which is where a lot of people were thinking that was going to be. So the pick is devalued because New Jersey is playing better than we thought they would. So the Nets are playing better. That pick is devalued. Dan Gilbert doesn't want to get rid of the pick because if LeBron bolts to somewhere else, he wants to at least be able to pick up a young player to put in LeBron's place. I don't know how that's going to... It's like right now, you have LeBron James. Trade the pick. Get him a player. Get him a guy like DeAndre Jordan, who is a rebounder. He is aggressive. I think he's a rim protector. DeAndre Jordan's terrible at the free throw line, but I think he plays a little bit more defense than the Cleveland Cavaliers currently do. Unload some of those younger players or older players. Unload some of them, and try to get rid of Tristan Thompson. Truthfully, get rid of Isaiah Thomas. He's got 1 year left on his contract. This is his last year. So you basically tell whatever team you're giving him to, it's like you only have to have him for 1 more year. And then you can dump him, and then he can go find his own way. So it'd be good for a salary dump. If a team is looking for a salary dump, they can maybe give away a higher cost player that they know they maybe can't sign for the future. Bring in a player that they know they can dump his salary because they don't have to pay him next year. I don't know who you're going to convince on that, but I like... If Cleveland can get DeAndre Jordan, they're really gonna look good. But they are gonna also cause themselves the problems again of having to integrate this guy into the fold. I don't know if you can get rid of Isaiah Thomas. I just don't know if there's going to be any takers for a 5'9" guy who doesn't play defense who's got a bad hip. There's a lot of people that are saying that his hip may not be completely perfect yet. He may have came back a little too early, which is kind of weird because usually hip problems you can understand when they happen to bigger people because their bodies are carrying more weight and they have a little bit more problem with that. He's a little guy, and he's having hip problems at a very young age, and that's no bueno. I mean, that's no bueno for a young player. Hip problems are something that usually doesn't have a real big success rate of healing real well and making you as good as you used to be. Ask poor Bo Jackson about the problems he had that shortened his career because of it. So, do I think that the Cleveland Cavaliers will boom or bust? Right now, I'm leaning towards bust. I don't think they're going to make the NBA Finals. I think the East may have caught up to them. I think the East may be a little bit stronger than they've been in the past. Toronto's playing amazing basketball right now. Will they keep that up in the playoffs? I don't know. Boston playing a lot better. And if they can get back a couple of players that they lost, that team could be even stronger. So that makes it extremely tough. And if the Cleveland Cavaliers have this really old, non-defensive team going into the playoffs, LeBron's not going to have enough in the tank to carry that team all the way to the finals again. And even if he does, he's not going to beat the Warriors. He's not going to beat the Rockets. It's just not going to happen. Those two teams way over. I don't think he could beat the Oklahoma City Thunder in a 7-game series with the way Westbrook can play with Paul George and some of their other pieces. Carmelo's inconsequential, but he's there, I guess, so you can kind of put him in there, I guess. I don't consider Carmelo Anthony another former Nugget. It's like, how many former Nuggets are having more success than the current Nuggets? Doesn't matter. Trade Isaiah Thomas to Denver so that we can dump his contract. I don't know. We have two good guards in Harris and Murray, so we're good on guards. We're just waiting for them to mature. Cleveland Cavaliers bust. I'm going to predict they don't make it to another finals. I think that the East is stronger. Boston and Toronto especially are stronger. Miami is getting better. So I would say that I don't even know if Cleveland's going to make the Eastern Conference Finals. But because of LeBron James, I will say yes, they will make the Eastern Conference Finals. But at that time, I think that old team that can't play defense, if the team stands pat the way it is, that old team not playing defense going into the playoffs will be terrible. It just won't be able to hang with some of the better teams in the East right now. They've got to be able to play some defense, and they just don't have that right now. They just don't have anybody who can really play defense at all. They need somebody. They may need to stop looking at who can help LeBron and look at who can play defense. Maybe getting one or two defensive stoppers to put on the court with LeBron James and Isaiah Thomas. Let LeBron and Isaiah Thomas handle the shooting, and then just find a couple of defensive stoppers. Find a couple of guys that can just cover people on the other end. Let Isaiah do what he does. Let LeBron do what he does. Score a ton of points with those guys, and find somebody, not a spectacular player, but somebody that can play defense. And if they can find that, just a couple of guys that can play defense and bolster that, this team still has a chance to take it all the way to the finals. I can't completely count out LeBron James at any point. He's one of the best ever. So I hope that Cleveland can figure it out. I like the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I'll end it here. With all that being said, to the troops, past, present, and future, thanks for the freedom.